All right. Well, we're just gonna wing this. So, hey, it's 4:20 a.m. Hi, and welcome to episode 69. No, what episode are we
Woohoo.
at?
It's witchcraft.
Hey, future Layla here. Just reminding you that if you like our show, please like, subscribe, tell a friend, and get the word out there. Leave a comment on whatever app you use to listen to podcasts. It really helps the show out, and we will smoke a kind bud in your honor. Now back to the show. Hey, it's 4:20 a.m. Hi, and welcome to episode 63 of the Stoned Witches Hour. On this podcast, two best friends separated by way too many miles get together to tell each other spooky tales, ghoulish ghost stories, and haunting true crime, all while smoking copious amounts of the finest cannabis the USA has to offer. Getting more faded than a poltergeist, I'm Layla.
And smoking this cheapest stuff in New England that's radder than rad. I'm Chelle.
And welcome to our episode today. Obviously, we have both been pre-gaming
A lot.
beforehand.
A lot.
A lot.
You know, I'm still I'm really happy. Like, I can't even explain my happiness. I have been getting these cheap, I don't want to say cheap eighths because I actually been buying it by the ounce, but like cheap ounces of good weed. And I just can't get over it. I can't get over it.
We do love a good deal. It's true. We love a good deal.
And you know, the coupon thing, can I just still talk about these coupons? Like, you're gonna give,
Coupons.
like, if you spend, I don't even know how much you got to spend, maybe $100. If you spend over $100, you get like a 10% off coupon.
Oh, I love a loyalty program.
But then you can multiply up to 3 coupons in one purchase, so you can essentially get 30% off a purchase. With the way taxes in Massachusetts, that's basically tax-free.
That's a lot of tax.
Yeah, right.
That's so what are you smoking today that's so cheap and wonderful?
I'm still smoking more of that banana pudding. I ended up getting more good stuff. You know, this batch was 31.5 for like, I don't even know what it came out to. I think when you broke it down, it came out to 25.50 an eighth, which compared to $60, Lord.
That's not too bad as far as things go in Massachusetts. Massachusetts.
Layla's so high she can't even see my state today.
So today I am smoking some mule fuel
Mule
from
fuel. You
a
know,
new
that's good
company.
packaging, by the way. I like that packaging. I like the little bags because they're not as detrimental to life as the big old glass jars.
Yeah, the big old glass jars at least can be recycled as glass. I don't know how recyclable these are. Why couldn't they just be some type of hemp packaging? I don't understand. But this mule fuel here is a little over 31% THC. It's 31.57% THC.
Right up
And
my alley.
it's got 0.04% CBDs. And I like that this has that what lab it was tested on. The only problem I have with this connoisseur cannabis mule fuel is it is dry as Satan's farts, I swear. This stuff,
Really? That's
yeah,
sad because then it goes up like poof, gone.
it really does. You put this in a bowl, you light it once, you do not need to relight your bowl. It burns like a joint and it will burn right down.
And you better be prepared to suck down the whole pipe in one sitting.
Exactly, the whole thing right there. And I think it could be like older weed, but I also think this might be part of the trend where they dry it really, really dry so that when they test it, that will increase the THC percentage. So I
Oh,
almost wonder if this is like a 28% THC that they dried to hell and back in order to kind of up that THC percentage just a couple points.
I gotcha. Now, does yours, I know a lot of the time, my labels will say it was tested on such and such a date and packaged on such and such a date. I'm thrilled when it's been packaged within like a month and a half of when I've bought it.
I wish this had a packaged date because then I would know if it was dry on purpose or dry because it's old West Coast weed. It does have a tested by date, the lab name, and it was tested in February of this year. So this has been on a shelf for a minute.
You know, it's probably a combination of both. They probably over dried it and it's getting old.
Yeah, it's probably a little bit of that, and all things considered, you'd think that the prices would get better.
No.
I was watching Jim Belushi, one of the Blues Brothers
Yeah.
is yeah, he's a cannabis farmer now, and I think he's kind of fun. He's an interesting guy, and I love what he's doing in the cannabis space right now. And he has a TV show. I forget what it's called, but it's supposed to be like a sort of like a documentary, but it's obviously scripted. But he's trying to sell his own brand of weed. And I don't know if he's in Oregon or Northern California, but he's taking a pound of his primo super awesome weed to these dispensaries. Guess how much he wants for a pound of his weed?
Oh my God, 5,000
Oh, Chelle, my poor sweet summer child. You are going to be so sad when you hear this. $600.
for for a pound?
$600 for the pound. That's it.
What's his phone number?
Right? I'm like, I'll go out there, I'll buy a couple pounds and bring it back. Damn, people out here are charging half that for an ounce of primo
Shit,
weed.
we'll hop in a car together and we'll each get one.
Right.
Jesus.
That and a felony for transporting it across state lines. But hey, it might be worth it. I don't know.
We would teleport it, right? Teleport it. We wouldn't do illegal things
No, never. We would never, have never, would never do any illegal thing.
because that's
But
wrong.
that does seem kind of wrong. I'm a little sad and disappointed that on the East Coast and in some of these,
I'll give him 800 to bring it to me.
right? Seriously. But considering how expensive it is in some of these places, I mean, I know wholesale is a lot cheaper, but that's a lot cheaper.
No, like to kind of give you perspective, in most stores in Massachusetts, you're going to pay a little over 300 for an ounce.
Exactly.
So 2 ounces or a pound, same price.
What I've been finding in New York State, same thing. If you want to buy good weed, if you want to buy anything over 30% THC, you're going to be spending at least a minimum of $240 an ounce, closer to $350 and up.
Right.
Here you can get mids and low grade cannabis pretty cheaply. But if you want quality cannabis, you're still going to pay right out the nose for it. It's very expensive.
Remember 6-8 months ago when I was getting a hell of a deal, getting an ounce for $288?
Exactly.
And that was a deal. A deal. Now, granted, now I'm doing it more for like 200, but
right. Exactly.
Shop around, people. Shop around.
Shop around and grow your own. I grow my own primo and I buy my mids because that's the most economical way for me to do it.
And if you're like me and can barely keep kids and cats alive, which, by the way, I've thought about getting a spider plant because remember, a spider plant I can keep alive. If I can keep a spider plant alive for 2 straight years, I will try to grow some weed. How about that?
Yay! I can't wait. I'm so excited. When you're ready, Chelle, I will come over and I will help you set up and we'll do it right this time. You'll take my advice, right?
I will give it my best.
Yay! Now that we're all nicely toasty and we're ready for some spooky stories.
I have something first before the spooky story. This is going to kind of cover our, we've kind of backed off our witchy part a little bit because we have started our new podcast back on the broomstick. But this is kind of like witchy related. I find this so intriguing because I, as an American citizen, am such a monarchist.
True, she really is. Listen back to our old episodes. I had to call her to make sure she was okay when the queen passed.
And I wasn't really okay as part of that issue. But so this is interesting. So the coronation is coming up for King Charles, which is officially King Charles III, not like
oh, is he gonna do it like on the throne of scone and like on
he
that big...
is.
Yeah, cool.
But the only problem is that they're trying to make sure that the thing doesn't fall apart while he sits on it.
Well, it's ancient, right?
I don't know. I think it's like 700 or 800 years old. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, monarchs for hundreds of years have been crowned on that.
I feel like it's been since like the 1600s, if I'm not mistaken, 16 or 1700s. They've been sitting on that, what do they call it? The coronation chair, which is on or intertwined with the stone of scone.
Yeah, the stone of destiny was built into the throne, and that's where...
Even though they can take it out.
I'm not into the whole monarchy thing. What I do love is cool historical...
Well, and that's the stone is actually Scottish, and that's really your thing.
Yeah, it's Scottish, so that's my thing.
He's having his coronation coming up like May 7th, I think it is. and May 6th, May 7th, one of
Right
them
after
being.
Beltane. I wonder if they chose that on
I
purpose.
know, right? Wow. Funny you should mention that. So I am actually going to, I know our listener folk can't see this, but the coronation invitation, please, by all means, everybody Google this because actually it's beautiful. So I'm going to share my screen with you real quick,
Ooh, okay.
and I want you to see the invitation. And this is where our witchy piece is gonna come in. So
Oh, that is pretty. That's beautiful.
it actually is beautiful.
Wow, how summery and oh my gosh, there's the thistle and strawberries. This is gorgeous. Oh, and the green man. This is gorgeous.
It is gorgeous. You know, everything with the royals has a shit ton of symbolism in it, every single thing. So you've got the two coats of arms for Charles and Camilla, and then you got all these beautiful flowers. And I'm glad you pointed out the strawberries because you know why the strawberries are on the invitation?
Why?
Because strawberries were the queen's favorite, and she ate strawberry jam sandwiches every day for like 70 years.
That is so sweet. I'm loving everything on here. The rampant lions. I love the bee. Oh my gosh, this is beautiful. There's irises. It's
So they
gorgeous.
they put stuff that symbolizes things that are, you know, important to the monarchy, to the king, things of that nature. And this is all like renewal, rebirth, new beginnings,
Yeah.
starting, you know, things starting over, starting fresh.
That makes sense that it immediately said spring and summer to me because that's what those seasons are magically,
Not to mention the coronation is in May.
right?
So it kind of fits the season. But Charles is a bit of a naturalist, very into conservation. That's probably his main cornerstone belief is conservation in whether it be wildlife, the ocean, or the earth itself.
I guess that fits also with the whole motif of flowers and nature.
Right. So this invitation is
I like him
very,
more than I thought I would.
you know, right? So he's very much more in depth of a person than you'd think. And this is very representative of him and his ideas and the things he holds near and dear to him. Like I said, there's representation of his mother, Queen Elizabeth II. He's got stuff on there that represents all of the three countries that make up the UK, Ireland, England, and Scotland. As you so prominently pointed out, at the very bottom of the invitation is a beautiful, beautiful green man.
Gorgeous.
And boy, has that stirred up some controversy.
I guess I'm not really surprised. The Green Man is such a big part of English culture, you know, Rosslyn Chapel and all of that, that it's in everything there. So I wasn't too surprised to see it on there, considering the motif of spring and summer and rebirth and renewal, because he fits right in with that.
And the whole natural thing, you know,
Yeah, the
there's
whole natural thing that he fits in with that. But the more I thought about it, isn't the monarchy Christian?
well, yeah. So
So what are they doing using a pagan symbol on a Christian monarchy invitation?
just to kind of be clear here, when you become the ruler of the land over there, as the King of England, he is going to be the head of the Church of England.
True.
So you're thinking to yourself, so the head of the Church of England has a green man on his
Yeah.
invitation.
Yeah, seems a little strange to me. Like they'd be at odds. Rosalind Chapel notwithstanding.
It's not at odds, but I am going to give you a certain perspective that is going to just make you want to just flip a biscuit.
Oh, I like your little Britishism there.
Yeah, right. So I found an article online on a online magazine called The Spectator, and this article was by Francis Young. And the title of the article is Does King Charles's Green Man Make Him Pagan? You know, obviously I'm intrigued, and because
Yeah,
that's
I'm
kind of been the
curious.
that's been the brouhaha for the last couple of days is, oh my God, the head of the Church of England and his pagan symbolism. So listen to what this person has to say. They call the Green Man an intriguing figure, and it says he is not, as many claim, an ancient fertility god, but something much stranger, a 20th century creation, a deity invented in modern
Wait,
Britain.
what?
Laylla, pick your jaw up.
I'm gonna need to see some sources on that.
So What this person is saying is in 1939, a folklorist named Lady Raglan published an influential article which drew together several strands to construct an imagined character that basically is the Green Man. They
Okay.
say
I've heard of the term green man was a relatively recent invention. So that's probably correct. That's probably when that was invented. But
the
like
term,
the
not the
term,
concept.
yeah,
Not
exactly.
the
That's
concept.
exactly the depictions of the green man, often called Jack of the Green or God of the Wood, that type of thing. Those have been around for a very, very long time, not just since the early 1900s. Whether that term was coined then or not, are they trying to say that because the term was invented then, that's when the green man himself was invented?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Oh, that's a bummer. Quite a stretch
Unfortunately.
there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're saying that the Green Man established his place as a British icon. Okay, so now we're putting the Green Man in the same freaking boat as Elton John here. The Green Man is a British icon, but it's supposed to be a symbol of the supposed survival of the old ways, an embodiment of joyous fertility. They kind of put into play around the 60s, which went in with the flower power, live and let live, love and let love kind of era, that hippie era. So they're kind of associating the Green Man with like the hippie movement, which Charles was in his formative years then, teenage, early 20s years then.
Right.
So maybe, I don't know. But yeah, this person makes the Green Man sound like a new thing.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, they've been those carvings in have been in ancient Greece, they've been on ancient Roman, I mean, even in ancient Christian, what is it, the early, second century. It's been around for a long time. I mean, whether
Well,
someone made a name for it, and it did kind of start to depict the Green Man. So there was kind of a resurgence and a reclamation, but it was of a much older foliage god, like the god of the harvest, the god of the growing things. This god has been around. I mean, Rosslyn Chapel was built hundreds and hundreds of years ago, well before that person coined the term the Green Man, and those faces and masks have been there. So I don't know, I guess they are on churches, so I'm not opposed to the idea of the head of the church using a green man symbol, because I almost see it as a bridge between our two religions.
well, and that's the thing. It was put on churches all across Britain is kind of I can't think of the term off the top of my head, but what they would use basically to kind of convert.
Early Christians did a lot of that. That's why Christmas is on Yule. That's why
Right.
Easter and Ostara are so similar in celebration. They pulled a lot of pagan traditions and times and places and held their holidays and their
To make
rituals
that transition.
more palatable.
Yeah, yeah. So there are green men all over the churches in England. So technically, being the head of the Church of England and those symbols are all over your churches. Hey, now it is a symbol, among other things, obviously, of our relationship with the natural world, or in Christian terms, God's creation. And like I said, Charles is a naturalist and he's very into conservation. And he's one of those people that, like, I don't know, every 3 months he plants a tree or something, or maybe it's every 4 months. He's like one of those people.
I did not know that. I love that.
He's very down with that type of thing. So for there to be that earthy naturalist symbol within the church that he's now the head of, for him to use that symbol would make sense, kind of.
It does.
A guy that you like, Winston Marshall,
Oh,
Mumford
Mumford
and
and
Sons.
Sons.
So Winston Marshall had a little bit to say.
Oh, what did he say?
To quote him, he says, "Why is the Jolly Green Giant more prominent on the coronation invite than any Christian symbols? He's the head of the
Ooh.
church. Has he forgotten the first commandment? Thou shalt have no other gods before me." And he goes, "This is paganism. What a shame."
Oh, I'm disappointed actually.
Like, it almost made me not like Mumford and Son anymore.
Right? Well, I kind of knew that they leaned that way a little bit, but I see it from the opposite, I guess. I love the fact that he is a naturalist. I love all the natural symbols there. I didn't see very many Christian symbols at all, and that made me happy and hopeful, to be honest, because it is such a shared symbol. It has been used on Christian iconography and churches for such a long time, as well as a pagan symbol. I recognize that. If about to be King Charles can recognize that it's also a pagan symbol and recognize the fertility and the natural roots of it, then I'm okay with that. I think that's cool.
Surprisingly, I do think that Charles has a grasp on what the Green Man really is.
I guess I'm going to have to research this royal family a little more. I was just under the impression that they were all kind of racist assholes that were a little kind of back in the last century, but I
Not
didn't
all of
know.
them. Not
Yeah.
necessarily. There's some depth to the royal family. There really is.
And if King Charles is going to embrace naturalism and try to help all the bullshit that's going on in this world right now with the climate crisis and everything, then fuck yeah, I
That's
can
like
get
his
behind
number one.
that.
That is his number one priority, is the
Nice.
climate crisis, actually. He does get a bad rap because he is kind of a weirdo. Because I'm not saying he ain't a kind of a weirdo, because he
Well, his
is,
brother's a fucking pedophile, so
for real.
that probably won't go in the podcast.
There is the face of the royal family that we see, and then there's the real people that they truly, really are deep down. And I think
Sure.
Charles has some depth to him that is very aligned with some more natural beliefs.
See what I said about this will not stop burning? It just won't stop burning.
The weed that just doesn't stop.
It just will not stop.
So that's what that was my little tidbit about the coronation invite. I thought that was really interesting that A, the Green Man's on it, and B, that it's caused such a brouhaha right down to damn Mumford and Sons.
I'm disappointed. I when you mentioned, I thought you were gonna say that was on the side of go Green Man, yay paganism.
No, no.
I should have known.
It was more of what the heck?
Why is that pagan symbol bigger than the Christian symbols?
It's definitely a good mix between where paganism and Christianity can kind of align, and I don't want to say come together necessarily, but kind of come together.
I would hope so. If
I
we need
mean,
to come together on some of this stuff.
we're on the brink of Easter here. What better ghosty day than Easter? I
Oh,
mean,
right? Like that's zombie day. I love it.
like I laugh sometimes at Christians who are like, I don't believe in ghosts. That's a bunch of bullshit. Well, guess what? You're all going to be celebrating Easter here in a day
Well,
or
don't
so.
they say the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost? It's right in one of their things.
I think they think it's a metaphor. I was looking for some Easter ghosts, and there isn't any. I think Jesus has like the
He's
whole
a lock on that. He's the
he's got a
only
lock
Easter
on the
ghost.
Easter ghost thing. So there isn't really a lot of Easter tales. But I did find an interesting place. I ran across an article on the 30 most haunted places in the world.
Ooh, we should go to all of them.
I was like, hey, which by the way, Transylvania is on that list. We need to go.
Isn't there like some type of festival that we should go to that's out there?
Yes, it's called Untold. It's a techno
Yes.
festival with lots of weed and techno music.
Oh, that sounds perfect. But anyway,
So I kind of was filtering through on the ones that were in America because that's really kind of our focus here.
all right.
And I came across a place, and I'm surprised neither of us have mentioned it or heard of it. It's basically called the Stanley Hotel of the South.
Ooh, I'm intrigued. I've never heard of this.
It's called Driskill Hotel, and it is in Austin, Texas.
Okay. Well, I've been extensively in Texas. I don't think I've heard of it. Tell me about the
Really?
Driscoll. Yeah. What's going on at the Driscoll Hotel?
Yelp, for what it's worth, I don't really buy into Yelp because people lie, but Yelp has actually named it one of the most haunted places in all of Texas for the second year in a row.
All right.
So it does rank on, all of these most haunted, type things.
Don't they all, though?
But this hotel, like I said, it's in Austin, and it's located on the corner of 6th and Brazo streets in Austin. This thing it was built by a Colonel Jesse Driskill in 1884. To kind of give folks perspective, it would remind you probably similar to the New Yorker Hotel in New York City. They built this thing for $7,000.
That's it?
Imagine building a big, huge hotel for $7,000.
Yeah, but $7,000 in what was the year again?
1884.
That's a lot of dollars.
Yeah. So they used to have these big, like, grand balls there. When it opened, they had an inaugural ball with the Texas governor at that time. So like that type of people.
Upscale people.
Yeah. It wasn't just like some, gold mining hotel type above a bar thing. This was a prominent, hosted, very prominent folks. Former President Lyndon Johnson and his future wife, Lady Bird Johnson, had their first date at the Driskill Hotel. So, even in the 30s, because he was president in like what, the mid 30s. So even then, this was still, quite the place to be. So the Colonel Driscoll, he had actually passed away in the hotel, and he had passed away in room 525. So, you know how, like, when we've talked about other hotels where a lot of stuff is concentrated in a certain room to the
Mm-hmm.
point where they block off that room nowadays. The Driscoll has a similar thing. Room 525 is permanently blocked off to the public because of all the activity in here.
Oh, no shit. Like the bathroom in that one bar place.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Colonel Driscoll dies in room 525. Like 1890, he died. I don't think there was any big uprising in how he died. I didn't really get the whole how he died thing. It just seems like he died there in the room in this hotel that he built. So, as you can imagine, his hotel, he built it, dies in there. He's going to be attached.
He's gonna stay.
Things start happening. Later in time, I'll have to find around the time frame. But two jilted lovers separated by a century of history also died in haunt room 525.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah. There is a bride that supposedly died.
This sounds like it's ripe for a lady in white type haunting.
Hey, seriously. So she was in room 525 and she killed herself after her fiance called off the wedding. And
Oh,
people say that they see her walking the halls in a Victorian wedding gown. But the second jilted lover, because remember I said there was two jilted lovers about a century apart. 1991, a more famous bride. She was a socialite. She escapes to the hotel, like kind of has this like left at the altar type thing, goes to this hotel, goes to the Driskill Hotel to kind of escape, to hide away. It's never happened to me, but I would imagine being left at the altars, if nothing else, embarrassing.
yeah, that's pretty traumatic. You might need like a weekend away, collect your thoughts, feel a little better about yourself, get some pampering.
Yeah, yeah. So she was last seen going on a massive shopping spree with her ex-fiance's credit card.
Nice.
She was seen carrying several bags into room 525. Later that night, while sitting in the bathtub, she put a pillow over her face and shot herself in the head with a gun.
That doesn't sound like the actions of someone after doing a shopping spree, though. I mean,
Maybe one of the things she bought was the gun.
maybe.
But so people have claimed to see her either carrying packages or carrying a pistol down the hall before she vanishes through the doorway of 525. So then there was a senator's daughter. There's tales of a child that meets her untimely death and continues to play.
In that same room?
Yep.
No shit. Yeah, no one stays in that room, right? That's the one you said is closed off?
Now it is,
Oh,
but it
great.
hasn't always been, obviously.
Damn.
But Edgar Allan Poe once said, of all the melancholy topics, the death of a beautiful woman is unquestionably the most poetic topic in the world.
Morbid. That's pretty morbid, but
It is.
okay.
There is a lot of children ghosts that they don't have like an origin story, but there is a lot of apparitions of children. Apparitions, I guess there's been apparitions of toys. I didn't know like a inanimate object could create an apparition.
Me either. That sounds interesting.
But people have said that they've seen balls rolling down the hallway that aren't really there, like as if a child was rolling a ball down the hall.
Yeah, I wonder if that's kind of related to some of the recording ghost that we've heard. Maybe it's not necessarily that the object has an apparition. Maybe it's just part of the
Like a
ghostly
part of,
recording, and it just happens. All you really see or notice is the ball. You don't necessarily notice the entity that recording was of, I guess.
right. It could be. It could be. Well, I guess that's true because, sometimes they talk about ghosts that like they'll see them hanging. Well, they got to be hanging from something. So you're kind of seeing the ghost of a rope.
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So it's not necessarily that the object has a ghost. It's just that it's part of a recording, like one of those recording ghosts in an area, not necessarily an actual entity.
There's even a story because famous people still stay at this hotel. It's still kind of a upscaley type place.
Well, Austin is known for being weird, so
Remember Annie Lennox from the Eurythmics?
yeah.
Annie Lennox stayed here,
Cool.
and Annie Lennox is supposedly been haunted by a cowboy type ghost. Don't have an origin story for the cowboy ghost.
At that hotel, she saw a cowboy ghost.
And actually said that he was dressed in a 19th century cowboy clothing and that she thought he was so real that she went in her room and took a shower and he selected her stage outfit for her for a show.
Whoa. Wow. I wonder
Like,
what
like
show that was for. I want to see the outfit now.
like had a conversation. Okay, I'm gonna take a shower now. Okay, I'll grab your outfit for you. Okay, here you go. And then he's not a real person.
Damn.
He's also this cowboy ghost has also been known to touch women on their arms or their backs, kind of in a romancing kind of way, kind of like a hey baby, what you doing? So he's kind of a little friendly to women, this cowboy ghost. But again, I don't have an origin story of the cowboy ghost. Some people think it's Colonel Driscoll himself, but who knows? It's not like we do ID checks here on the ghosts.
Right.
There's been lots of sightings. It's a smoke-free place, as a lot of places are nowadays. There's been sightings of like random smoke, and then people will smell the smell of cigars. So there's somebody there from back in the day, from 100 years ago, still smoking the old stogies.
So, what I hear you saying is that when we bring our Ouija boards there, we need to pack the edibles.
Yeah, yeah. But they call them phantom smells. I guess it's not just the cigar smell. Like if you were in a bar, those bars from like the 70s and prior that were like the smoke was so thick you had to carve through it with a knife. You'll be walking through the hotel and all of a sudden just get overwhelmed by like this waif of tobacco smoke
Oh, wow.
with nobody smoking there.
That's one of those scents that seems to be very prevalent with ghosts, maybe because it's such a pungent, distinctive smell. In my family, my father's father was known for smoking cherry tobacco.
And that has a distinctive smell.
That has a very distinctive smell. And so sometimes we'll randomly be walking somewhere or hanging out someplace in a place he never had been before. So it's not like that smoke could have permeated the walls or anything. Or even at a park when we're having like a family get together and we'll smell that cherry tobacco smoke and you know that he's there. So it's interesting that kind of as bad as tobacco is, it's one of those things that seems to be a common indicator of a ghost.
I think there's a lot of stuff that has happened there in general. I think it might be coincidence that a couple of bad things happened in that particular room, but
That's an awful lot of coincidence for one room. I mean, I wouldn't stay in that room. Would you stay in that room?
oh my God, hell yeah.
People die in that room, Chelle. I mean, I would go to it and I'd read some tarot cards in that room. I'd check the vibe in that room. I would totally check the energy there. I would not sleep in that room.
It sounds like most of the people have killed herself. Like there's one ghost that they say her name is Tara, and this person got a lot of hard liquor, a carton of cigarettes, some People magazines.
Sounds like a night in.
Yeah, right. But she set herself up in her hotel room at the Driscoll. I don't think it was 525. I'm not sure of that, but I don't think it was. She almost drank herself to death and then also had a newly purchased revolver.
Who's letting these people check into these rooms with brand new guns?
I don't know, but she would have certainly died of alcohol poisoning if she had not died from a self-inflicted gunshot. I mean, it's almost like, you know how this is an interesting topic to kind of, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but we could at some point in the future go down this rabbit hole. I do believe that there are locations that are kind of like black holes to negativity and black holes to sadness and depression. There are places, and maybe this is one of them, when you're in that place for too long, unbeknownst to yourself, you get overcome by that negativity and that sadness and that depression. And it's almost like you've been sucked into something dark
I
that you
agree with
can't get
that.
out of. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I really do believe that there are some places that
Like the
seems to be.
ghosties have their clutches on you and you can't escape that because of the spot. Like, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
there's some areas, there's whether it's due to ley lines, negative energy in the area, but they seem to be repeated spots of tragedy, repeated spots of negative things happening. And it just kind of seems to seep into those areas and repeat there. I mean, just the same as you might walk to a spot and say, wow, I feel really peaceful here and really calm and very happy. This spot feels good to my soul. You can also walk to places that all of a sudden your hackles are raised and you feel sketched out and everything's a little creepy and you don't know why. It might be just as beautiful as of a spot that made you feel good, but for some reason the energy of this one is off.
And
And
I
people
think this is one of those places.
yeah, I think people can create or enhance those places too by how you design a building, how you decorate a building, the materials that you use, the things that you do while you're building it. I think can either enhance the good or enhance the bad in some of these areas.
And I think that's exactly what's happened here is I think that there's maybe some bad juju in the air at the Driskill Hotel. And if you're there and are maybe predisposed to some negativity or things of that nature, maybe some inner demons, that this particular location is going to perpetuate that.
Yeah, it's going to exacerbate it. And maybe there's a maybe like the Stanley Hotel underneath it, there's all that limestone and water that we have found seems to be very common in places that experience perpetual type hauntings. Maybe that's something similar here. I'd be curious to know what's underneath this.
I think there was some tragedy back in the early days of it, but I think anything recent is almost like just bad juju at this location.
Yeah,
Bad juju.
sounds like it attracts tragedy. Oof, scary spot.
But I am intrigued. I would be interested in going. Maybe not staying in that room, but maybe I'd stay in 526.
There you go. Okay. I would stay with you in 526, not staying in
But
525.
it did
We'll put a
make the
glass up to the wall and listen.
it did make the 30 most haunted places in the world list.
Nice.
Beautiful, beautiful place. Still a host to popular aristocratic, we don't use that word here in America, more socialite, celebrity type people. Might be out of our price range, but I definitely think it would be an interesting place to go just because I am curious if it's just like a black hole of negativity.
Yeah, it would be very interesting to find out. Bring some tarot cards, some of
Homemade Ouija boards.
our homemade Ouija board. That's right. You have a very strong fuck around and find out streak. So
I do.
this is right up your alley for sure.
That's my little tidbit on the Driskill Hotel. So I've talked about the coronation invite in the Driskill Hotel. What have you got for us today, Layla?
I've got an asylum.
Oh my God, that's so unlike you.
I know. Okay. It was actually never an asylum.
Because you were like the anti-asylum girl.
I am. I don't like asylums. They're kind of terrible. This one is actually called Asylum 49. And I almost didn't do it because Asylum 49 is a modern day haunted house experience.
Oh,
You know, right around October, they even have like a hands-on haunted experience, like the kind where people will grab you and like shove you against a wall to scare you.
I do kind of like those, not gonna lie.
Oh, yeah, it's got great reviews. It sounds like it's really, really fucking scary.
But,
Part of the reason it's so scary is it is legitimately haunted.
oh,
So even though I was a little turned off at first because it's not an asylum, it was an old hospital, and it does seem to have real paranormal activity.
Now, where is this?
This is in Tooele, Utah, and it's actually the site of the old Tooele Hospital. Since about 2006, it's been called Asylum 49. And half of this very large building complex currently operates as like an old folks home. And then the other half, which is used to be the old hospital, was retired right around 2002-ish. So there's still people today that were born there or had some different types of, surgeries or what have you
Medical
performed
care
there.
done there.
And then in 2006, it was purchased by a gentleman named Kim Anderson, and he turned it into Asylum 49. And he says originally he just decided to buy it because it was an old hospital and he wanted to turn it into a haunted attraction. But as he was doing that, he realized it was just as haunted as the people in the town had been telling him. Because the stories of the hauntings go back to when it was originally just a house that was built back in 1873 for the family of Samuel F. Lee. He and his family lived in it until 1913, and that's when it was turned into an old folks home, like an almshouse. You've talked about those before, like where the poor people could go and be taken care of, or elderly people, kind
Right,
of like the indigent people of the time would go stay at an almshouse.
right.
This almshouse was never an asylum, but it did take care of a lot of poor and elderly people. That's when the hauntings started. So back in the early 1900s, when it was an old folks home slash almshouse, they started talking about shadowy figures that would be seen walking the hallways, including nurses. People would talk about a nurse that had come into their room. Say you had like your grandmother was staying there, and a nurse would come in to take care of her. Often the patient would say, "Oh, the nurse was just in here checking on me," and no nurse had been in. So there were several reports of ghosts and different hauntings that happened then. And that's when the number three started to be a thing. Patients would die in threes, even way back in the early 1900s when it was first an old folks home. One patient would die, and then very quickly, two more would die, to the point where anyone that worked there would know, even today, as in the old folks home, it still continues to happen. When one patient dies, they know very, very quickly two more will follow.
Yeah, but that's been kind of like that's always been a thing. I've heard that my whole life as a child with my non-witchy family that oh, somebody died, two more are coming, or oh, two people died, who's the last one?
That's true. Things
That's a
do.
thing. That's
Yeah,
a
people talk
thing.
about things coming in threes, but at this hospital, it's definitely a thing, and that's a little weird when you think about it.
Imagine being number one.
Right? Now, so a lot of the ghosts that are in this hospital and old folks home are people that were originally patients. One of the common ones is a gentleman named Wes who suffered from Alzheimer's, and he stayed in a particular room, room number 6. He was usually a nice guy, kind of quiet, but he was prone to getting very angry and irritated when he was having an episode. And when he passed away, people reported seeing him still in his room or outside of his room, pacing back and forth. And of course, he would disappear as soon as they got close enough to try and talk to him. Now, he continues to be seen. People will report seeing a disturbed man outside of room number 6. And, nobody was in the room at that time. And they would describe what Wes had looked like. This particular ghost can either be kind, like a kindly older man, or if he's having an episode, he can be a very angry ghost who's known to grab people or leave scratches or scream at them right around room number 6. Currently, now that it's a haunted attraction, that room someone has kind of cheekily written 666 on. And people will still report seeing Wes either in that room or just outside of that room.
Oh,
Also, back in the late 1900s, early 2000s, people would see mists and dark figures and orbs in the halls. And again, I guess as being that it was an old folks home and a hospital, quite a few people passed away there. And unfortunately, when it was not built with a proper morgue. They just kind of picked one of the rooms in the basement, and that was where they stored the bodies until the county coroner could come by. So they weren't kept exactly in the nicest of conditions. So some people think that that might have been a contributor to why a lot of souls stayed here. maybe they weren't taken care of properly in life or, right after they passed. But one of the scarier things that people talk about is a malevolent, dark figure that's seen usually right around the witching hour, right around 3 a.m. And he's described either as an all black figure, just like a shadow figure that they can tell is like a large man, or as a large man wearing all black clothing. One of the stories about this black figure was one of the overnight nurses was at the nurse's station right around 3 a.m. She saw a man dressed all in black come down the hallway and go into the room of one of the patients. And this was well past visiting hours. So the nurse went down to that room to tell him to come back later and found that the door was locked. And she wasn't able to unlock it with her master key. So she got a couple other nurses to come help her pry the door open. And when they did, the room was empty. The only person in there was the patient, and the patient had passed away.
Let me ask you something.
What's that?
You got this haunted place.
Okay.
You got apparitions. You got ghosts going through locked doors, walking through walls and shit. So why are you going to put elderly patients who got dementia and Alzheimer's still in part of this building who are going to think every damn one of these people is real?
I don't know.
I'm just wondering.
There's also several children ghosts. There was the nursery in the area.
Oh, yeah, because you said they had babies born there.
Yep, babies were born there. And unfortunately, several children did pass away there. And so people will see, there's a couple different ghosts. One is a young blonde girl, possibly called Jessica. A psychic who saw her there found that she passed from a brain tumor. And she stays there. She's looking for her parents. She wants to talk to her parents. The other girl is a young girl named Sarah, and she has been seen mostly by Kim Anderson, the current owner. But we'll get into her in a minute. So
they don't have any like video or audio or of any of these, do they?
Quite a few different people have gone to this Asylum 49 to do ghost hunts, because one of the fun things that Kim does is, in the Halloween season, it's a haunted house.
Right.
The rest of the year, you can book it to do ghost hunts.
Oh,
private ghost hunts. Ooh. Ghost Adventures has been there more than once. There's several YouTube ghost hunters that have been there. There's actually 2 movies that were filmed there. One of them is Stephen King's The Stand. They used that for part of that movie.
Love The Stand.
But you can find on YouTube and other places various, they've got quite a few EVPs of different spirits that are there. There's the thermal imaging of shadow figures in different rooms and walking down the hallway. There's quite a bit of activity here. That's what kept me coming back to this as a haunted house. I would very much like to go there and do a ghost hunt because it seems to be extremely active. There's a lot of people who claim to see the nurse. There's a nurse in white that Kim calls, he calls her Nurse Ratchet because he says she's all in white in that old traditional nurse's outfit, and she looks like a heavy-set German lady. And she's the nurse that patients would describe as having come into their room. The nurse that actually came into the patient's room would say, "What nurse? No one was scheduled to come in here." And they would describe her physically and say the nurse all in white. Well, the nurses here would wear colored scrubs. They didn't wear like that old white nurse's outfit. So they would know that it was the ghostly nurse and not an actual nurse. But it was common enough, and everyone would see the same looking woman, that they know that that's someone that they see there. Why she's haunting there, they don't know, but she's a very interactive ghost, much like Wes, who's often seen in his room or pacing outside of his room. Wes is an angry, interactive ghost.
Well, I would imagine that she's the type of ghost that doesn't realize that she's dead and doesn't have to get up and go to work every day. So she's just getting up and going to work every day.
Yeah. Now, I've seen some people's firsthand accounts. One was from a person who used to volunteer to work at Asylum 49. She says that it's really fun, super spooky. But the most spooky time is when they're open just for the ghost hunts. But she says she volunteered there while it was a haunted house, and she was usually either a clown or she would be dressed like in a ball gown with blood. But one time she was there dressed and ready to haunt people when she saw a little girl walking through the attraction all by herself, like a little 6 or 7-year-old girl. Now, this is one of the like super, super scary haunted houses. This isn't one where you would take a little kid, let alone let them go through by themselves. So this employee says she saw this little girl walking and was a little worried about her, and so followed her through the attraction. This little girl seemed to not be bothered, not really notice anything, and just calmly walked through to the end. And when she went around a corner, the employee went to follow her and couldn't find her anymore. She was gone. Other people had seen the little girl at different times walking through, and the same thing had happened to them. They couldn't find her when they would try to go find her to reunite her with her parents. And nobody in the entrance or the exits ever saw the little girl come in or go out.
Oh.
People who go to visit the haunted house will also report seeing this little girl. She's usually in the conference room, which is over near where the nursery used to be. And a lot of times they'll complain. Like in particular, this one woman went with her boyfriend's little brother, and her boyfriend's mom. They saw this little 6-year-old girl in the conference room trying to scare people. And when they got to the end of the haunted house, the mother complained to the manager about them having a child working there in such a scary haunted house. And the manager, of course, was extremely confused because anybody that works there has to be 16 plus, and they don't let little kids in.
Oh.
But more than one person has reported or complained about this little girl all alone working in the haunted house when no such little girl exists. The employees at Asylum 49, they're supposed to travel in twos. They have to go somewhere at least with one other person because so many poltergeist type things happen there. They're afraid someone will get locked in a room or will get trapped behind something, and they want to make sure that there's someone with them that can help, because everyone that works there, it's very common for things to go fly across the room, stuff to fall off the walls on its own, things to be moved when they'll go in a different room. So much so, like I said, that they have to travel in pairs. This place is also home to a portal to somewhere, possibly hell. There's quite a few psychics that have gone there who have described that there is definitely a portal there. And interestingly, people that are close to passing away, the people that work in the nursing home know when someone is about to pass away because they'll describe seeing this portal in their room or near their room. And then within a short period of time, inevitably they pass away. And psychics have talked about this portal and say that it's guarded by a woman spirit named Maria, and that all these spirits are attracted when people pass away. They're attracted to this portal, but Maria for some reason tells them not to go, that it's actually a portal to a bad place, and she says that they shouldn't go into the light. So nobody's really sure where it goes to, just that it's there and that it's guarded by some type of spirit.
Weird.
Right?
Makes me want to go check it out.
Yeah. Now, the one thing that kind of gives me a little bit of this is bullcrap vibes is unfortunately Kim Anderson himself.
You're all about like bullshit story today.
No, I think it's real. I definitely stayed with it because I do think the place is haunted. There are too many reports prior to it being Asylum 49 and continuing after by too many different groups.
What did this guy do to ruffle your feathers?
I think he's lying. I think he's exaggerating some of his experiences to prop up his haunted house. And I don't think he needs to. I think some of the original stories and the experiences people have had speak for themselves. The biggest thing that got me was he says that he was in Asylum 49 fixing it up to be the haunted house. And prior to it being a haunted house, he didn't believe in ghosts. They keep a lot of the hospital the same, including a lot of the old equipment, a lot of the old hospital beds, some of the pressure cuffs and different things are from the original hospital. And he was in one of the rooms kind of repairing things, and he saw some poltergeist activity. Later, when some of his original employees were working, they all came running into him and refused to work because they said that there was a ghost in one of the rooms. Was the same room that he had been doing work in and had seen the poltergeist activity. So he goes to this room and he says in the room, in the center of the room, was a little girl with black hair wearing like a white nightgown, and she was crying.
What, would he lie to make money? Is that what it is?
I don't know. I believed him up to this point. So he says he sees this spirit, this little girl spirit crying in the center of the room. And he asks her why she's crying. And she says it's because she wants to scare people like the other kids are doing. And so he talks to her and tells her that she can, and that she can go hide under those beds over there and grab at people's legs. And she gets all happy and skips off and goes under and grabs people's legs from under the bed. And he says his wife at the time has also had experiences with this little girl where she felt something brush her cheek and the hair by her ear and whisper, "You scared me," that type of thing, which I kind of buy that, different things like that sounds good. But he continually describes having conversations with this little girl and like lucid conversations, back and forth conversations with this little girl spirit where she calls him daddy.
I don't know. Something's making my creepy vibe go all haywire.
Right. He goes by the nickname Scare Daddy. And he does also have a ghost hunting group now, a paranormal group as well. I'm not going to say that he didn't have these experiences. I'm just going to say that a, a ghost that's completely corporal, visible to a person, enough to have a logical back and forth conversation on more than one occasion, that's amazing. That's unprecedented. Why can't he reproduce that in the presence of someone else?
Right.
So, okay, yeah, I'm going to call bullshit. I think that's a little much. I just do. And so it was him, unfortunately, that almost turned me off from this place. But the stories that that predate him and continue to happen there now that he's allowing ghost hunts to happen there as well. There's enough paranormal activity that what I think is kind of bullshit is outweighed. So I do think it's a good place to go. I want to go there and conduct my own. I do think you should check out the YouTube videos because there are some amazing, very convincing EVPs, shadow figures, that kind of thing that happens. But also listen to Kim Anderson himself and you decide, maybe I'm being too close-minded.
But maybe he's one of those people that is just trying to take advantage for the sake of making a buck.
Right. But there have been psychics through there. There have been a lot of ghost hunting groups through there, and they have all had very similar experiences and corroborate a lot of the older stories and the older experiences that people have had there. So there's definitely something going on. And I don't know what the original builder's family was into. I don't know what was going on that land. But I think just the fact of it being a hospital and an old folks' home has kind of, for whatever reason, made it a place where paranormal activity happens.
Right.
So you can go on in October and do the haunted house and have a lot of fun. And
I think it would be fun.
I'd like to go when they're having a ghost hunt for sure. Ghost Adventures went there twice. It was interesting enough they went there 2 times.
I understand the whole you call bullshit, but
just a little.
The fact that ghost hunters went there twice, there's got to be something there.
I agree. There's definitely something there. I think there's just a little bit of bullshit being piled on top of a real actual haunted site just to make it maybe more interesting. I'm not sure.
Because he wants to be the most haunted and the most popular.
Don't they all?
So he's embellishing things
right.
to try to up his rank in the most haunted list.
Sure. Kim Anderson, invite us over to Utah. Convince me. I would love to be. Please change my mind. I would love that. You seem like a really interesting guy. Your place is amazing. Invite us over. We'll do a ghost hunt and we'll see if we can legitimize some of these stories.
I'm down. I'll bring the homemade Ouija board and all. I'm down.
All right. I'll bring the ghost hunting tarot cards.
With that being said, folks, we hope you had a great time sitting here with us today talking about hotels and bullshit calling and coronation invite drama and the devil's lettuce, the love of our lives.
That's true. I do need to get a little bit higher. My bowl's empty. I am ready for some more weed and get away from some of these spooky, ghosty places. Until next week, we will see you at 4:20 a.m. on Wednesday at the Stoned Witches Hour. Thanks for joining us.
Keep it witchy.